Hey everyone, this is Kurt with Leading Saints, and today I get to chat with Chandler Rogers, who has reached out to me recently about an app that he's put together. And I think I'm always interested in new resources and things out there, especially for leaders or those that leaders help. So Chandler, what got you, what started the idea of getting into doing an app? Where's the story
Yeah,
begin?
yeah, no, it begins back in high school and with my personal experience, like many other, people in the church, I was exposed to pornography at an early age and kind of before I really understood, I guess, what was going on in those early years, like was kind of trapped and hadn't talked to really anyone about it. So for a long time was just kind of struggling in isolation, like so many people do, to work through that issue. And I grew up in a very faithful family, great parents who always taught us about Jesus Christ. And so I feel like, growing up, I had this desire to follow God and to do what was right. And so when this trial came into my life, it was something that was super hard for me. And one of the tipping points in my story is ended up getting connected with a group-based program where I was able to start working together with other guys, some of which were my age and some of whom were older than me. But I think like so many people that talk about their own, journey through recovery, whether it's pornography or something else, it was that light bulb for me that I wasn't the only one out there, but probably even more than that, that there was power in banding together with these other people and realizing
Mhm.
that God didn't just want me to work through this challenge, just me in isolation and with the Savior even, but both with the Savior and with other people that he placed in my life who could help strengthen and work together in a way that was really effective. And so that's
Yeah.
really what inspired, then years later, fast forward, I don't know, 6 years, I'm in college and, I talked to many other friends and people who were struggling with the same things and started to just think about how isolation is just playing such a huge factor in keeping people trapped, no matter what the trial is, the stigma or whatever it is. Like it's hard to be vulnerable and to figure out how do we work together with others that have the same goal as us, whatever you're trying to work through. And so we built Relay as really a tool to try to make it easier for people to find others in the same boat and actually work together effectively to cut through the isolation.
Yeah. So, then maybe just give us you're currently at BYU. What's your current
Yeah.
status? You're at BYU studying. Are you,
Yep.
did you
I
served a mission, or where are you at with all that, those
yeah.
typical questions?
Yeah. So I served a mission in New York City, Spanish speaking, and I got home about 3 years ago now.
Okay.
Met my wife the first year after I got home. So very typical BYU story. So we've been
Nice.
married about 2 years now, and I graduate in 6 weeks. So I kind of my background, I knew I was interested in technology. I never learned to code actually, very much, I should say, before Relay. I learned how to code to start working on the app, but I kind of always knew I was interested in entrepreneurship, but at the same time, wanting to find a problem that I could help make a difference in making impact and helping people. And so throughout my college experience, that's been a theme in what I've studied and the programs I've been involved with. And yeah, just really with friends here at BYU is how we kind of got started with Relay, and we're all graduating here soon.
Nice. And so is Relay your full-time job? Is it sort of a startup or a
Yeah.
side gig, or?
Yeah, well, it started as a side gig and now it's our full-time startup.
Oh,
Yeah. So
cool.
the plan is, post-graduation, continue to work on it. Because in the last 6 months that we've been working on it, we have been able to get some credit with school, which is awesome. But it's really just been great because all of us care about trying to help make a difference in this area. And so there's kind of been an awesome path that's just opened up, to where, yeah, we want to continue doing this afterwards.
Yeah. So
So
take me back to, or let's just talk about your personal story a little bit, and then we'll get into the
yeah,
details of the app. But like being a teenager and going through that, especially in our faith community, sometimes, every time I should say, there's a lot of shame around this.
totally.
Was it, did you reach out for help as a youth? Did you get caught and maybe forced to reach out, or would you describe your journey through all this mess, as a teenager?
Yeah. Yeah, well, so I kind of alluded to, it was a couple of years really that I was like, okay, I can do this on my own, and maybe I don't need to reach out to a bishop or family member. But eventually, I did end up talking to my bishop, and I was immediately received with so much love, and he immediately helped, change my perspective around it. Because in my mind, I guess my perspective was this is like the one thing that's making me like holding me back from being who God wants me to be, but he helped me see like this is an awesome opportunity I have to learn more about the Savior's atonement. And so that experience with my bishop was one of the initial, I guess, like outpouring of support that I
Yeah.
did have in those years. And eventually I did just choose to talk to my parents about it. And I've talked with my mom a lot about it since then, but I know how hard it was for her. And I've had the chance, both me and my wife, to talk with other couples and with mothers or parents or loved ones who are supporting someone going through this. And I definitely can understand how hard it is, because I saw how much it weighed on my mom's heart. She felt, a lot of shame, like it was her fault, and so part of my journey was learning how to help the people and the loved ones around me, help them heal and realize like that and this also ties to the theme of Relay, like my mom didn't need to be my only accountability partner. She didn't need to feel so much weight. Like it was all up to her to help me, now that we were kind of open about it and I was working towards recovery. And eventually, once I added in the peer support group, I think that really helped, on my bishop and my mom, to realize like they didn't need to be the only ones helping support me, because I had all these other peers that were in the same boat, that we could help each other in a different way that was also just really effective.
Yeah. And then, as far as like this, the principle, which is at the core of this app, from what I understand, is just that connection and finding community and whatnot. How did you find that as a youth? Did you, a lot of people find that through 12-step programs, or talking more openly about it? I mean, how did you find that connection community, or did you?
Yeah, so I got involved with the Life Changing Services. The Sons of Healing program
Oh,
was kind of the primary avenue, I would say. But so I would say like the answer was kind of, I got it from there, but it was also realizing like I wasn't taking full advantage of it just because I had a group of other guys who were roughly the same age and in the same boat and like working towards the same goal. I didn't feel like, these 6 days of the week that I wasn't in a Zoom call with them, that I was really getting that connection element.
Yeah.
Which is tough. Yeah.
So, it was after your mission when this idea of the app came. Was it a group of your friends, did you say, that all came up with it, or how did the actual business project begin?
Yeah. No, it wasn't right after my mission. It was probably about a year and a half after I got home. So about a year and a half ago, I had really just been thinking about, how many people in group programs like 12-step or the Sons of Healing program or any other group program, how most of them are there because they want to tap into the connection element and they want to get that support. They're willing and they're at that step. But I just kept thinking about how, and I wasn't the only one who felt this way, because I talked with many of them who all felt like they weren't fully leveraging what could be from that opportunity in the group that they had through those programs. But then I started realizing like how many people out there don't even get to one of those groups for whatever reason, mostly fear and shame, and the amount of courage it takes to get there. And so that's really where the idea started. And it wasn't really a part of a class project or anything. It was just like, hey, I'm going to go start talking to people and understanding their experiences to figure out like, is there a real pain point here? Do people actually feel like it's hard to get tight knit support? And that's where it started. So I started talking to all the people I'd met, doing interviews and trying to gauge like where specifically is the gap, to try to form ideas around what could app or something look like to help solve that gap.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into it. Maybe give us a screen share here and just give us a tour.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, when someone comes into Relay, if they don't already have a group, so say I'm not going to a 12-step type group, when you create your account, Relay will help match you into a group of people. So as I share my screen, just imagine that you've already created your account and you've now gotten matched into that group. And so for many people, like the whole point of Relay is it makes that process of getting into a group of peers way easier. But then the question is, well, what does Relay do after I'm in this group of peers? How does it help me experience that connection and accountability? So this is what I'm looking at when I come into the app. Relay has some basic features that allow you to track things like sobriety. So let's say I want to log for how I did yesterday. So Monday, February 28th, let's say it was a win. It was a good day. Relay helps me reflect on, okay, what contributed to the success? So let's say I stayed busy and I spent some time with friends and family, study my scriptures. That's what helped me make yesterday a good day. Relay allows the chance for me to reflect and add my thoughts here. And while there's visibility, my group will be able to see this check-in, which I'll show here in a second. This
Mhm.
is private to me. So we're finding a balance of this is still your individual journey, but we're helping kind of put it in a team environment. But things like my reflection, for example, my team wouldn't be able to see. So my check-in here looks like I just hit a milestone of 3 days. And one kind of core feature that I can do within Relay that helps me as a group and my team work together is logging regular mood check-ins. We call them pulse checks. And so say, for example, like before I go to work, I know that maybe I'm more vulnerable. It's a time for me where I'm feeling kind of stressed about the day ahead. I can schedule a notification and that comes to my phone. When I click that notification open, it'll ask, how am I feeling right now? So let's say like I'm feeling a little tired today, a little stressed out. Again, I can kind of reflect on what I'm feeling right here, training those muscles of awareness, and I can reflect about it if I want to. And then this last question will help me indicate right now, what's my motivation to stay strong? So let's say I'm not feeling like I want to slip up right now, but I'm feeling a little weak. If I slide this down, you'll notice here at the bottom, it's suggesting for me to throw a flag in the chat. And what this does, the red flag feature, if I go ahead and finish this up here, everyone in my group just got a notification that says, Chandler threw a red flag. He's feeling kind of off. Jump in and show some support. So it helps start that conversation. Whereas, you know, in a group chat, or even if I don't have a group, it's really tough to be able to know who do I reach out to when I'm feeling vulnerable, and even being aware and being able to craft a message to say I'm struggling. Like that's so hard for people to do. And so with the red flag feature, like you can see this orange button at the bottom, users love it because it lets them throw that red flag with just one click. And that's something that we've seen to be super powerful for Relay users is with just a click away, they're able to have that support in a moment that otherwise may result in a slip up. So coming into the team section, I can kind of see an overview of everyone in my group. Let's say I have a friend that I also know who's struggling with this, and the app matched me into this group. I can invite my friend to come be a part of Relay with me. And this is kind of the core, you know, what you would expect out of this type of an app. There is an ability to chat, to interact here, but more than just a basic group chat functionality, we're trying to make it easier to have deep and meaningful connection. So every now and then, Relay will prompt me and nudge me and say, hey, Chandler, it's been a few days, start a new conversation with your group. And what that will do is it'll pull up some prompts here, and it will give me, you know, some examples to choose from. So let's say, how can we work together to more easily overcome individual struggles? Let's say I wanted to start that prompt-based conversation. This creates a thread, again, for my group. We'll get notified and say, Chandler started a conversation, where people can jump into this conversation room here and discuss these ideas and start sharing, you know, things that we've learned in a peer environment. And so I won't, you know, go into every aspect of the app, but kind of that key of helping make it easier to reach out when vulnerable, to discuss meaningful things. And then I think lastly, like one feature that we see a lot of people getting a lot of value out of is, you know, it can be hard sometimes to let other people know how I'm feeling. Maybe I don't want to throw a red flag every time I'm feeling stressed or feeling burnt out. Well, people can come to this overview and they can see that I just logged a check-in and I indicated I was feeling somewhat bad. There's an easy way right here for me to reach out and send some encouragement. And again, start another conversation. So reducing those barriers for me to check up on my friend and to be there to give support and not just get it. And that's I think a final theme that I'll just mention is like helping make it easier for you to get healing by starting to give support to others, not just get that support. That's kind of the main overview. Is there anything that you want me to like show more of, or like I'm happy to go into more detail, or we can pause?
No, first of all, that's just fantastic. I mean, it's a slick looking app, great design and functionality. I appreciate those little things, you know, about apps and whatnot. So this is great, fantastic. And I see this. So, and what are the groups called? Are they just groups of friends or?
Yeah, we use the word team very
Team.
intentionally.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean they can be comprised of, you know, people I know, so friends, or they can be people that have similar characteristics as me. So for example, when I'm creating my account, I can say, hey, I want to be in a group of other people who value God in their recovery journey,
Yeah.
or maybe not for people who don't value that. But team is the word we've chosen because it connotes like you're working towards a specific goal. We're not just here to vent and be honest. Like it is about that, but it is about helping each other work proactively towards something together. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. And how are you seeing like teams use this? Like, are there examples of the type of teams?
Yeah, no, so I alluded earlier to, like, people that already have a 12-step type group,
Uh-huh.
using this to help them stay connected. So in that example, we've seen awesome success from different groups say, like, hey, we've been trying to use just a normal SMS group chat to stay in contact when we're not, in person at group recovery meetings. And they've come on Relay and they found it to be really helpful, because instead of, with a vanilla group chat having to figure out what's our system, how do we want to check in, Relay helping provide some structure there. But I think the red flag is something that we see, being the thing that people love the most, because with that one tap of a button, instead of, again, having to type a whole message, my group just knows instantly. And it was cool. I heard one story about a group that, I think it was around midnight, someone like threw a red flag. And most people probably weren't on the app, but within seconds there was like 4 people there starting a conversation, being like, hey man, like, how are you feeling? Talk to me, like, I'm here for you. And that was just such a cool, like, example of how, like, those groups are using it. And like another example that comes to my mind is actually a group of women. So I should mention, this isn't just for guys.
Yeah.
And
And it's not just
obviously,
for pornography issues, right? Like,
no, yeah. And right now, although we're like, if you look at our website, we're marketing towards the use case of overcoming pornography habits, just to help us
yeah.
get an initial user base. But you won't find the word pornography actually anywhere in the app that I just showed you. We're building this functionality of tight knit support and connection accountability. And so yeah, these women, one really cool example is she's a college student, but she had never been able to get past a couple weeks clean, and she's working with her bishop. And she was just feeling really demoralized because she grew up in young women's hearing all the time, like, when you guys date a guy someday that struggles with this, blah, 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 blah. And it was never like in the cards of whether they themselves would struggle with something like this. And so there was extra shame, probably more so than any of the guys I've talked to about this. And hearing her story about what it meant to her to find other females who were in the same boat was just so powerful. And since then, she was actually able to get past that 2-week barrier. And I think she just mentioned to me that she hit 12 weeks clean. So like massive improvement since before she was using Relay. And just her story of now not feeling alone anymore and feeling hope because of the association she's been able to build with Relay.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love that. And just these community components, and also, I have a marketing background, and, a big thing you learn in marketing is you want to minimize any friction that someone has, especially when, in a sales cycle or sales funnel process. And so I love this, that because people could think, well, why can't people just text somebody if they're having a bad day? But it's really just that you're minimizing the friction, and it may not seem like a lot to take out a phone, look up a number, type in a text, but when you're just doing a daily check-in, it's done, and it throws the flag up there, or at least shows where that individual's at. So that's really powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
So so like you said, addiction recovery groups, this would be a great way to stay connected between meetings. Is there and I would imagine if maybe somebody just wants to join, or can they join just a random group or be assigned a group?
Yeah, no, totally. I think, if anyone's out there listening to this and you're like not currently attending a group, like, this app is to help make that easier. I've talked to a lot of people who were like, going to 12-step, although I know it's probably good, it just felt too scary for where I'm at right now. I think Relay is a good way to dip your toe in the water there. And so the app helps match you into a group of people. But yeah, if you're already attending a group, I think the benefit is like, hey, let's try to like see if we can leverage each other even more fully than our existing group me or chat or whatever we're using right now.
Yeah. Can people remain anonymous, or do they need or how does that work?
Yeah. So that was one thing that we thought early on, is like, how do you get like meaningful connection, but also preserve like the safety and like some anonymity? And we ended up, doing a lot of testing and finding out that people were actually super willing, most people, to use their first names. And so that's kind of the structure of the app is, I'm Chandler in the app, but let's say that my name's super unique. I don't know, Chandler's decently unique, maybe. You don't have to like use your real name, right? If you want to be Jacob, like, but it's different than like Reddit, for example, or Twitter, where it's like, video game dude 123. It has a feeling of like, these are real people and not just super anonymous tags. And I can choose from preset avatars, or I can set a real profile picture, like whatever degree of anonymity that I'm comfortable with. Like, we're trying to help make it so you can opt into more connection, because that's where healing comes from. but at the extent that you're ready for it and not,
Yeah.
create up too much pressure around it.
Yeah. Is there any other application as far as leading to in-person meetings? I mean, are you hearing that they start on the app and then they meet in person and find deeper connection person to
Ah,
person?
Yeah, well, I mean, so our user base is not just in Utah, it's kind of everywhere. And so for most groups, like meeting up in person isn't possible. But I'm a part of a group actually that just this past week is talking about like, hey, like I'd love to jump on a Zoom call and start getting to know people in person. A lot of people have said like, hey, now that I'm feeling more comfortable on the app, I would love to be able to do like a Marco Polo type thing where I send a video and it's like my real face and like we can have a little bit more human touch as a part of our connection. And so, we're definitely seeing people do things like that. And we did have one group very early on before we'd even launched. We were testing with Slack, a tool that kind of a messaging platform. And most of those people that were in our beta group were around here at BYU. And it was surprising because, yeah, there was like a third of the people just started a conversation saying, hey, like, does anyone want to get together in person and do a game night? And we saw that happen. And it was like incredible to see that people were starting to be willing to connect and form friendships beyond just like the support group to help me overcome this thing. It's like, no, these are people I care about and I'm starting to develop real relationships with.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. So what's the future of the Relay app? I mean, how do you monetize this thing? Are you a nonprofit approach or how does this work?
Yeah. So we launched free and we were like, hey, maybe there's a way that we could sell some sort of product to therapists to help, cover the costs, but keep it free for the end user. But one thing we learned actually, because these are tight knit groups of like 5 to 10 people, we learned that when it was free, the barriers were too low to get in, that some people would join without really a high intent to actually participate and be committed. And so what that resulted in was just a diluted experience, or it wasn't as powerful for people who really wanted to be there. So they're with people who were like, it's a free app, I'm gonna check it out, and then I'm gone. And so we changed it actually based on feedback to be a low monthly subscription. It's $8. So compared to like paying for a group program that maybe, a few $100s a month, still keeping that affordable, but it's almost like a ticket of commitment. And we've actually seen way better results in terms of people feeling like their groups are engaged since then. So that's kind of how we do that. And that allows us also to not have to do ads or things like that. People's data can stay private so that we can keep, like I said, like we want to work on this full time and make the app better. So that helps there. But then in terms of like, where does the app go? We absolutely feel like pornography is just one example of many things in which, people aren't banding together in a very effective way today to get the type of tight-knit support they need to be successful. So whether your goal is, like I'm having a tough time getting to the gym, there's probably a few friends that are also having a tough time getting to the gym. Relay being the platform that helps make that easier to have like tight-knit accountability and support. And even, beyond just normal goal setting, other sensitive issues like pornography, so eating disorders or mental health or things like that. We definitely want to keep going in that direction and be the tool that helps make it easier for people to get that strong support system.
Yeah. Wow. Really cool. And so how are therapists using it?
Yeah, we see therapists using it kind of more in like an endorsing type relationship. So a couple therapists that we've worked with say like, I'm going to continue to supply the curriculum. Relay doesn't actually have any sort of curriculum. We just have different features and things to help them, stay accountable, have connection, help rally each other to provide encouragement and motivation. So we see therapists kind of complementing it with what they're offering as like a professional, like, curriculum-led approach, and Relay being the tool that they're advocating for. Hey, you guys that are all working together or individual clients, like here's how you guys can have connection and accountability when I'm not working with you, as kind of a tool in their toolkit to help their clients be more successful.
Yeah, cool. So, and could it be like a team have just 2 people in it? I imagine.
Yeah. So you can create a private group. Yeah. With, let's say I have 1 or 2 friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens when, I assume it prompts you daily or can it be more than once a day that it prompts you?
Yeah.
To check in?
So I can schedule a few different times. Yeah. So I know I was just talking to someone yesterday. He's like, hey, I want to be able to do it 5 times a day. And we set a max of 3 right now, but we see people using it, whatever works for them, and setting times when, they want to be reminded or maybe most vulnerable,
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Especially when it comes to addiction. Some people, at the beginning, as they're reaching for recovery, they don't know how they're going to survive the hour, let alone, a whole day. So, And then how do we learn more about it, to download it?
Yeah.
Do you have a website? Obviously, people should go to the App Store and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. So it's in the App Store, it's in the Play Store. But if you go to our website, it's joinrelay.app. You can find more about the app there, and there's an easy link to download the app from the website. So yeah, joinrelay.app is the easiest place to go, or you could try searching it in the App Store or Play Store as well.
Cool. Awesome. So any other point or principle that we missed before we wrap up? Or
yeah, well, I think maybe I'll just add, again, like kind of a personal, testimony is the right word, but thought, I guess, around like really like the whole reason I reached out to you, Kurt, and like why we wanted to share this is because this started from a very personal place of, it was so hard for me to get to a place where I had the deep level of connection that was so needed for healing, and had just talked to so many other people that, not just individuals, but bishops as well. And like I mentioned, like moms or supporters in any way, feeling like it's so hard to get that strong support system, or for the supporters in particular, feeling like it was all up to them and that this burden was just so heavy. And so the principle that, peer-based support to complement other forms of accountability and other forms of connection being such a critical element that helps people feel less shame, and like removing the shame allows people to actually focus on repentance and without having those other barriers to moving forward in the right direction. And I just seeing kind of the benefits that can come from trying to not just figure out like what's in it for me, how can I get support, but starting to think about others, because now I'm with these other people. It's the same principle we talked about in the church with ministering and other things of like, when we turn outwards, all of a sudden our perspective changes, and it imbues us with more strength and ability to continue moving forward, and it gives us an added purpose. And so as I saw those things in my personal journey, and as I've shared those principles with other friends that I've had, I've seen like drastic improvement. And that's really like why I wanted to come share my stories. Like those principles, I think, are things that we need to be talking about more, and what we've tried to do with Relay.